My name is Drew, and I'd like to welcome you back to yet another episode of Real Talk Today. Today, I want to talk about something that's serious and something kind of silly at the same time. It's a bill that was introduced into Congress in Mississippi a few days ago called the Conception Begins at Erection Act. But before we get to that, I'd like to go back in time to understand exactly where the bill's conception actually came from.
Most Supreme Court decisions are granular, little noticed interpretations of the law and Constitution, but a few are landmarks. Roe v. Wade was a landmark. It effectively legalized abortion across the United States. Here are the facts and players in the case. Jane Roe was actually Norma McCorvey. She was a Texan in her early 20s who wanted to terminate an unwanted pregnancy in 1969. Abortion was legal in Texas at the time, but only for the purpose of saving a woman's life. That was not the issue for McCorvey. Her life was not at risk. She tried unsuccessfully to get an illegal abortion and was referred to two attorneys interested in challenging anti-abortion laws. The Wade in Roe v. Wade was Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas County, who enforced that Texas abortion law. McCorvey soon filed a case against him. The Supreme Court agreed in 1971 to hear the case, and on January 22, 1973, struck down the Texas law in a 7-2 decision. Justice Harry Blackmun wrote for the majority opinion and declared a woman's right to privacy under the 14th Amendment superseded a state's right to ban abortion. The court set different rules for each trimester. In the first trimester, the choice to end pregnancy was entirely up to the mother. In the second trimester, the government could regulate but not ban abortion in order to protect the mother's health. In the third trimester, the state could prohibit abortion to protect a fetus that could survive outside the womb, except when the mother's health is in danger. Justices Byron White and William Rehnquist dissented. They basically held the argument of privacy went far beyond the intentions of the constitutional framers, an argument that could signal the grounds for challenges to Roe. The two justices also stated the court's decision did not stick to the specific facts of this case because Roe was not in her first trimester at the time of the litigation. Public opinion was quickly shifting. In August 1972, Americans opposed legalized abortion, 46 to 42%. But by April 1973, it was 52 to 41 in favor. In the years since, Roe's been modified but not overturned. A notable example was in 1992, a case called Planned Parenthood versus Casey. For all intents and purposes, this is the new standard by which abortion cases are judged. The focus this time wasn't privacy, it was roadblocks, which had been intentionally set up to make it harder to get an abortion. In a 5-4 ruling, the court said restrictions are unconstitutional if they place an undue burden on a woman. Support for Roe v. Wade remains strong. A Kaiser Family Foundation poll in June 2018 found that 67% of Americans do not want the Supreme Court to overturn the ruling, while 29% do. The question now, of course, is what the Supreme Court will do with a solid conservative majority.
I want to do a recap on the Roe versus Wade situation. I'm not an expert on it, but I want to kind of give a quick synopsis from my understanding of what was going on. A lady named Norma McCorvey wanted to get an abortion. And back then, abortion was legal, but only when the mother's life was at risk or whatnot. You couldn't just, decide, I don't want to have the baby and go and, find the nearest clinic and get an abortion. It wasn't legal, especially in the state of Texas at the time, which is the state we're talking about. So since they wouldn't basically let her get an abortion because there was nothing physically wrong with her, she took it to court. And that's where the Roe versus Wade case basically started. And from my understanding, I guess they called her Roe so they could, try to protect her identity and whatnot. But the district attorney's last name was Henry Wade. And so that's how they came up with the Roe versus Wade, from my understanding. And she went through a few courts or whatnot and basically got denied until she went to the Supreme Court or whatnot. And I think maybe a year or so later, the law got basically changed to where the woman basically had, more say-so on whether she would carry a child to term or not. Basically, the bottom line is, in the first trimester, she could make the decision. And after that, the government could basically step in, and set particular laws together, to kind of dictate, if she could, terminate the pregnancy, after that first trimester. That's really basically the whole thing in a nutshell. I'm not going to get that deep into that, but the new law that was introduced in Mississippi, a few days ago with the contraception bill was basically stemmed from this situation with the Roe versus Wade. Let's get into it.
This week, a bill filed in the Mississippi State Senate is sparking national headlines.
Yeah, the author of that bill said that the wide array of reactions were not what he expected. 16 WAPT's Beth Al-Miles spoke exclusively with Senator Bradford Blackman about the bill that is causing quite a stir.
What is 2319?
Well, 2319 is what it boils down to. Is it points out the hypocrisy and the double standard in legislation that we have that targets what women do in their most personal decisions.
The bill comes after Senator Bradford Blackman got word about another bill being filed last summer.
I can't remember which bill it was that I saw that was targeting people that helped someone get an abortion. I was like, this is getting out of hand.
If this bill was to be passed, it would be illegal for a person to discharge genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo. Blackman stated that most bills involving contraception and/or abortion focus on the woman's role, but that this will bring up the role of the man, who are 50% of the equation.
Basically, what he's trying to do is introduce a bill, and I don't know if this guy's a joke or whatever, but he's trying to introduce a bill in Congress that would fine a male, $1,000 or whatever the case may be for masturbation. Bottom line is, you're not making a baby, they don't want you doing nothing. Let's look at this a little bit deeper.
Yep, you heard that right. Under this bill, it would be illegal for a man to discharge genetic material unless it's with the intent to fertilize an embryo. Now the fines, they start at $1,000 for the first offense, $5,000 for the second, and by the third time, you're up to $10,000. Now, obviously, this bill is not going to pass, especially in a state like Mississippi. But let's be real. Republicans want to legislate what people with uteruses do with their bodies. So let's see how they feel when these types of laws apply to them and their bodies.
See how happy this woman is? She seems like she's very happy about it. She's got that smirk on her face or whatnot. I mean, to me, it was a waste of time to introduce the bill, but the bottom line is, women seem to get a little bit happy over this. Just look at her, look at the look on her face. She's very gleeful about this. Say, yeah, okay, we're going to get some get back now. But in all honesty, let's be real here. One law has nothing to do with the other. Now, like I said, I think a woman should have the right to have an abortion. If something, if it's a situation where, she's hurt or it may, affect her life or stuff like that. Or, in all honesty, if she doesn't think the child's going to come into a situation where, it's in their best interest. They may be impoverished, whatever. I don't really get that deep into that. Like I said at first, one has nothing to do with the other. You're talking about bringing a life into the world that, in all honesty, even especially today, a lot of these women, they make all the decisions on whether, a child is born or whatnot. I can understand back in the 60s, it was a little bit rougher, as far as the beginning of, birth control for women and whatnot, because I think it was in its newer stages back then. It may not have been readily available. I'm not for sure on that. But today, it's totally different. And today, it's not a child that's being born that a woman don't have 100% say so on whether that child is born or not. So the laws are just different now than then. It was a little rough on women back then, but today you don't have to have a baby if you don't want it. There's too many forms of birth control or whatnot. And I'm not even gonna get into abstinence because that's the easy way out, and most people are not gonna do that, especially male and female, when they are at the childbearing, ages or whatnot. That's not going to happen. So I want to be realistic. But there are too many ways to not get pregnant in today's society to, even be in a situation where you were having a child that wasn't wanted. Yeah, let's see. Okay, why are we talking about? Let's see what the other woman got to say about it.
Well, all right, Senator Bradford Blackman from Mississippi, come on down. Now, in layman's terms, pretty much says guys can't engage in any sexual activity unless the intent is to get someone pregnant.
Look at just happy as she can
I guess
be.
since they're forcing us to have babies, might as well stop them from doing anything other than procreation. Seems fair. Just so you know, this act poses fines: $1,000 for the first offense, $5,000 for the second offense, and $10,000 for each offense beyond that. So if you have sex other than to make a baby, it's going to cost you money.
Whatever.
I guess either way, you're going to pay.
As you can see, these women getting real happy. They're getting real gleeful over a law that has absolutely no chance of passing. Because, like I said, that's totally different in what you do in your own home that doesn't involve, recreation, bringing another life into the world that the state has to take care of or whatnot. This is not the same thing. So, all this gleeful smiling and whatnot, is ridiculous. And to be honest, I think this guy is basically trying to appeal, to the women. He's probably trying to get back in office. He's probably coming up for re-election for long. So he's trying to get the women on his side. That's the only way that you could, in good faith, even write up something like this and stick it out there in public.
Twin States News spoke to a local, Sarah LeBlanc, to get her reaction to this bill potentially being signed into law.
I think it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
I don't know how they could even enforce that, and it's just silly.
Amen.
I don't know what else to say about that.
The potential fines for conducting these acts would be $1,000 for the first offense. The second would cost you $5,000, which would double to a $10,000 fine for the third penalty.
Yeah, what about the fourth and fifth?
Tyler Brown shares what he thinks people should do just in case this bill does get voted into action.
People should start practicing being celibate.
So funny.
Hey, fam. Hey, sit this one out. He wasn't talking to you. Just go and sit this one out.
People should start
Man, get on up.
Going
Let me
without
stop.
sex. Unless it's somebody you really want to be with, or somebody you really want to have a child with.
Blackman introduced this bill 1 week ago, which must receive a majority vote to pass through the state Senate and the state House to become an actual law. Colby Sims, Twin States News, Meridian.
Now, come on, man. Now it's getting a little ridiculous. They done pick the guy that nobody wants to start talking. It's almost like they picked the worst of us to put us on the news or whatnot to start, just running our gums or whatnot. This guy talking about everybody should practice celibacy. I mean, this is not realistic. This is a guy that obviously has no dog in the fight, so to speak. So wasn't no need of asking him nothing. Oh, my God.
Getting attention, it has real meaning.
But when you have a title like this, that's what's catching people's attention. So if that's what catches your attention and gets the conversation going, I'm all for it.
The senator hopes this brings attention to the other bills he's filed, including one focused on the sex offender registry.
In Mississippi, if you're convicted of incest, you don't have to register as a sex offender. I have a bill that says that you have to register as a sex offender. Nobody's talking about that bill, and that bill's out there.
Well, there you have it, guys. You heard what he said. If you're out there touching yourself now, especially as a male, you might end up getting yourself a $10,000 fine. As ridiculous as it is, I had to say something on this. This has gotten insane. But we'll see you at the next one.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. Anxiety, filling up every space, no privacy.